Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the long-detested and usually inaccurate TheRoot.com. These race hustlers have come up in a number of videos recently, like the time they called America the land of the baby prisons. That's right, I'm not kidding. They actually said that. And now, today, The Root is going after actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who in my opinion is excellent and is a national treasure that can do nothing wrong. And The Rock was recently cast as African-American folk legend John Henry, and you're never going to believe why The Root is mad about this. It's because The Rock isn't black enough. Yep, in a blatant display of overt racism, The Root is going to try and say that someone blacker should get the part. This should be good. Let's go ahead and get started by checking out the article. It's called The People's Eye Roll. Dwayne Johnson's casting as John Henry prompts deserved backlash. I don't know about all that. The Rock is pretty badass if you ask me, and his movies have all been excellent lately, and any new movie should be happy to have him on board, but hey, why not give this article a shot anyway? Dwayne Johnson has a lane, and he's rocked the hell out of it. Truth be told, it's a lucrative lane. The affable action star has made good money off of, well, being an affable action star. But on Tuesday, with the announcement of his latest project, an adaptation of the African-American folk hero John Henry, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson committed one hell of a lane violation. As CBS News reports, the reception to Johnson, a light-skinned mixed-race man, playing an undeniably black American folk legend, was incredulous at best. Johnson's heritage isn't exactly a mystery. He comes from a storied wrestling lineage that includes the legendary Samoan wrestler Peter Mava, his grandfather, and Dwayne's father, Rocky Johnson. Dwayne Johnson himself has celebrated his father's trailblazing career as a black wrestler who broke color barriers in the business. Now, you may be asking yourselves, what the hell is a lane violation? Well, it basically comes from this black saying of stay in your lane, kind of like the lanes on the road. And The Root uses that line to tell whites to stay out of their business, essentially. But it also is used more extremely too. In my opinion, lane violations are just ways to shut everyone else up. They don't want to speak or discuss or even defend their stance at all. Saying stay in your lane essentially means shut up and listen. We're doing what we want because you're racist or some shit. You know what I mean? And now in today's instance, The Rock is getting called out for even being partially white. He's not black enough for The Root, who really could care less about the actor's talent, track record, popularity, or bankability at the box office. The Root isn't thinking about the movie or its story or quality at all. They only care about the main actor's race. And that's pretty disgraceful, if you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a joke. But acknowledging black heritage isn't the same as identifying as a black man. And Johnson has never publicly done the latter. Even more pertinent, Johnson's racial ambiguity has been a hallmark of many of his roles, which have rarely seen him explicitly portraying a black man, and to that end, being part of a black family. Which brings us to John Henry. Johnson has never been short on charisma, and certainly has the body type one would ascribe to the legend. But John Henry, the legendary steel-driving man who quite literally worked himself to death, is not an ambiguously black character, nor has he been portrayed as such. Many Twitter users noted that Henry was frequently portrayed as dark-skinned. Previous film adaptations of the legend starred Danny Glover in the television series Shelley Duvall's Tall Tales and Legends, and Roger Aaron Brown in the 1995 Disney film Tall Tale. And this doesn't get into the cultural context of the John Henry legend, whom research suggests was based on a real railroad worker. According to one theory, the real-life John Henry was a former Union soldier who was imprisoned for theft, likely unlawfully, while working down south. Henry was leased, along with other inmates, to the brutal task of building railroads. A more accurate way to think of it would be de facto slave labor. Knowing that framing deepens the resonance of the story, and frankly, any major adaptations deserves an acting and directing team that can mine that complexity. As it stands, the project will be directed by Johnson's Jumanji director, Jake Kasdan. Okay, well, first of all, that new Jumanji movie was fantastic. The Rock and Jake Kasdan back together is another great idea. I don't get why people would ever fight this, but at the same time, well, I'll have to admit, The Root does make some good points here. I never thought I'd say that, not today. But really, you can't deny that The Rock is veering off from the traditional look of the John Henry character. If he's supposed to be a dark black man, that's fair, but it's also not the first time a part or character has changed in the way they look or act. I mean, I could make the same arguments The Root makes here for another race-swapped character. What if I was a hardcore Marvel fan who wanted Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., to be white, like how he has been for decades in the comics? I could mention his white origin and the previous white portrayals, but I'm pretty sure The Root and the SJWs for that matter, they wouldn't take too kindly to a white defending white characters. And they certainly wouldn't want to take away a role from Samuel L. Jackson, a full-blooded black man. And hey, forgive me if that sounds rude. I don't like referring to these actors by their amount of blackness either, but also, The Root started this. And ironically enough, referring to actors like this, it sounds like the way former slaveholders would discuss their cattle, saying this one's black, this one's part black, half black, this tall, this strong. Think about it. The Root is acting like those slaveholders they're alluding to when they're talking about John Henry, which is kind of messed up.
How committed do we want to go?
I'm all in.
Here we go. If you smell what The Rock then you got to look. Eyebrow is cooking.
Ooh,
Yesterday, Twitter users floated actors like Spawn's Michael J. White, Luke Cage's Mike Coulter, and Black Panther's Winston Duke as more suitable actors to play John Henry. Others said they wish the high-profile role would have gone to an unknown, rather than a man who can already command around $20 million for a film. Well, he gets paid that much because his movies make that much. Hiring an unknown would mean the movie wouldn't make that much money. Johnson's own choice of words don't provide much comfort that he knows the import of John Henry's legend, specifically for a black audience. He shares news of the movie on his Instagram, where he hinted the movie would feature a collective of international folk heroes, with John Henry as the lead. The legend of John Henry's strength, endurance, dignity, and cultural pride was instilled in my DNA at a very young age. My dad would sing Big John to me every time he would put me to bed, Johnson said. Nowhere in the post was the Henry's blackness explicitly mentioned, and why would it? And well, first of all, it's ridiculous for fans and black supremacist websites like this to try and recast these movies for Hollywood. I may give Tinseltown a lot of shit over its liberal bias, but at the same time, I'll also give them lots of credit for all the sweet movies coming out lately, a large number of which starred The Rock. Dwayne Johnson has been killing it recently, and I think having a good movie with a cool actor like him, who everyone knows and likes, is far more important than the actor's birth history. Do you guys really need to know an actor's 23andMe scores in order to watch him in a comedy film? Come on, The Root. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be watching or talking about this movie if it weren't for The Rock. I mean, have you guys even heard of the other suggestions being made here? Jai White, Mike Coulter, Winston Duke? Without attaching those names to their franchises, these guys are nobodies. Meanwhile, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a freaking household name, and re-teaming him with his director from Jumanji is an excellent idea. So while progressives and SJWs may complain here, now, they're not going to be the ones watching the movie anyway. And come time for people to buy the tickets, they will. And they're going to go to see The Rock and his director make a comedy, and it will make a lot of money, thus proving the leftists and Marxists and progressive SJWs were wrong again, as always.
The thing is, I kind of agree with everybody at this table, but it's like Dwayne, he has the power to get this movie made. And it's interesting because, Adrian, you said you didn't know who John Henry was.
Yeah.
Now you do. And it's because of The Rock portraying. But I'm saying because of The Rock portraying him, you know, it has even brought it to light.
The same held true for a statement Johnson gave to Variety about the project. Again, Johnson emphasized the cross-cultural and global appeal of the movie, losing any kind of specificity about John Henry's legend itself. Netflix is the perfect partner and platform for us to continue entertaining our global audience in a disruptive way, Johnson said. These diverse characters speak to a legacy of storytelling that is more relevant than ever and span across a worldwide audience, regardless of age, gender, race, or geography. There are plenty of things Johnson is a great fit for. Movies about dinosaurs, movies about capers and jungles, movies with all manner of vehicles careening into various landscapes. But this ain't it. Well, I don't even think The Root knows what this movie's really about, and they certainly don't know whether or not Johnson is a fit for this part. I mean, have they really read the script? Are they privy to the story and the concept of the movie? Because I don't think so. Not a chance. They just saw a mixed race star get a part for John Henry and were immediately triggered, thus proving their own bias and racism. I'm willing to bet they're even bitter about The Rock being so popular right now. They clearly have a chip on their shoulders about mixed race people getting movie roles and success. And unfortunately for Johnson, they saw an opportunity to bash him here and shame him for not being fully black. And, well, The Root, they happily took this chance because they're awful. And worst of all, they don't really have any decent alternatives here either, or a good argument. There's no one I've seen suggested who could fit in as John Henry and do a better job than The Rock. But it's not really about that anyway. The Root doesn't care about making a good movie that makes a lot of money and people enjoy it. They really only care about claiming high-profile parts for African Americans and getting as many as possible, which is pretty tribal when you think about it.
Talk about the influences.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with them right now, man. The first time, by the way, I've never talked about these influences. Let me see. We'll start off with Harrison Ford. Wow. Right? Especially with Indiana Jones, what I loved about that character that he did, he was able to kick ass, right? It's always fun to kick ass. But then to have like a little charm to it. He was in on it. He would get his ass kicked, and, you know, and he loved and celebrated women, and he saw a beautiful woman. He was going to go, you know?
In the end, we're having yet another discussion about the specifics of an actor to be playing a part in a movie, which is fiction, usually, or based on more fiction. Whether it's the race in question, the gender, or the age or height or weight or whatever, SJWs always find a way to complain. This time, they're once again inserting themselves into the creative process of an entertainment industry they don't know or understand slightly, and they're making things worse. The left just loves to attack things that are popular in order to seem relevant. And what's really funny is, progressives still think people care what they think, but day after day, less and less people are taking the leftists seriously. Hell, even my show here has become pretty routine, but I'll happily beat down their racism, sexism, and more anytime, any day of the week, whatever it takes. I really don't mind. Actually, I get quite a few good laughs out of this, and I hope you guys do too. What did you guys think about today's story? Should The Rock have been cast as John Henry? And do people really care what race this character is? And is the Root.com just simply the worst? Comment your thoughts on everything below. And don't forget to check out my new backup alternative account on Minds.com. I'm going to be posting some new links and some extra videos there soon, so make sure you guys sign up. Thanks again for watching today's video. We'll see y'all next time.